This is Jonathan Cahn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. When you look at what's happening in the world, it's easy to wonder what's going on, and are things out of control? Is this what the Bible foretold? Is the end near? What do I need to know about the future? Where's it all going? How can I be prepared? What is God's prophetic word for the hour and for me? On this channel, you're going to find prophetic updates, the mysteries of God, daily words for life, biblical revelation, prophetic teachings, and much more. I pray it's going to be a great blessing to you in the days ahead. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time there's a new video that's posted. Leave a comment as to how God is blessing you. And don't forget to share these videos with friends who need to hear them. Thanks again, and God bless you. Shalom. To have absolute clarity of purpose is to walk through chaos with a compass that never wavers. In the days ahead, when noise will be everywhere, and everyone will be certain about everything, the chosen one cannot afford the luxury of drifting. Purpose is not a slogan or an abstract dream. It is a living, breathing directive that governs every action, filters every decision, and anchors the mind when storms rage. Without it, the smallest distraction becomes a detour, the smallest doubt becomes a sinkhole, and the smallest temptation becomes a chain. Clarity of purpose begins with stripping away illusions. Many think they know what they want, but their so-called purpose is borrowed from others, from culture, from peers, from the shifting winds of trends. That is not clarity, that is mimicry. True clarity demands solitude and honest confrontation with yourself. It means asking the questions no one wants to answer. What is the one thing I would hold on to if all else was taken? What am I willing to lose friends' comfort and even safety for? The chosen one cannot settle for good enough answers. The purpose must be so specific that you can speak it in a single sentence, and so powerful that you can feel it burning in your chest when you wake. Once this purpose is defined, it becomes the ruler against which everything else is measured. Every opportunity, every relationship, every word you speak is weighed against it. If something does not serve it, it is poison. The reason most people never reach their potential is not because they face insurmountable obstacles, but because they dilute their purpose with countless half-commitments. They try to keep every door open, not realizing that survival in treacherous times requires closing most doors so the right one can be guarded fiercely. This kind of clarity also makes you immune to certain traps. In turbulent times, misinformation, emotional manipulation, and seductive distractions will swirl like a storm. Those without clear purpose are easily pulled into arguments that don't matter, causes that aren't theirs, and alliances that weaken them. But when you know precisely where you are going, you can spot the difference between a true path and a side road designed to lead you astray. You stop feeling guilty for saying no, because you understand that every yes to the wrong thing is a betrayal of your mission. Maintaining absolute clarity is not a one-time achievement. It requires constant vigilance, because the world will try to erode it subtly. Little compromises, if unexamined, will turn into big detours. You must revisit your purpose daily, sharpening it like a blade. Speak it aloud to yourself. Write it down. Test it against the challenges of each day. The chosen one cannot rely on memory alone. Purpose must be a constant companion, not a forgotten notebook in the back of your mind. This level of focus will change how you see people. You will begin to recognize who truly aligns with your mission and who is unknowingly or knowingly pulling you off track. It will not always be malicious. Often it will be people who mean well but carry values, priorities, or fears that conflict with your path. Clarity gives you the courage to distance yourself from such influences without hatred, because you understand that survival and fulfillment depend on surrounding yourself with those who share your alignment, or, at the very least, respect it. Perhaps the greatest power of clarity is the way it transforms your endurance. When the days grow darker and the weight of pressure threatens to crush you, the mind searches for a reason to keep going. If your purpose is vague, your resolve will collapse under strain. But if it is precise, personal, and unshakable, you will endure. You will know exactly why you are suffering, exactly what you stand to lose if you stop, and exactly what lies on the other side of the trial. This knowledge is the fire that keeps your feet moving when others give up. The chosen one walks a narrow road. There is no room for wandering hearts or double-mindedness. Absolute clarity of purpose is the weapon that keeps you alive when everything else is poison, because it refuses to let you swallow anything that would weaken your resolve. It is not just a guide. It is your shield, your anchor, and your warning system in the days ahead. When you have it, you cannot be bought broken or bribed away from your path. When you lack it, you are at the mercy of every passing wind. The difference between survival and destruction, between legacy and obscurity, will be how fiercely you guard this clarity. Guarding your mind relentlessly is the discipline of treating your thoughts as sacred ground. In times of uncertainty and deception, your mind is the last fortress. If it falls, everything else follows. The chosen one cannot afford to let just anything enter and take root there. Ideas, beliefs, and narratives are not harmless. They shape perception, influence choices, and determine whether you act with strength or stumble into traps. To survive what is coming, you must see your mind as a citadel under constant siege and act accordingly. Every day, countless voices will compete for your attention. Some will come dressed in authority, others in charm, and some in fear. They will speak in headlines, in whispers, in repeated slogans meant to bypass your reason and settle deep in your subconscious. Left unguarded, the mind absorbs them like a sponge, turning borrowed thoughts into your own convictions without you even noticing. Guarding your mind means filtering every piece of information before allowing it to lodge itself in your thinking. You do not accept something because it is popular, repeated, or spoken with confidence. You test it. You measure it against your principles, your purpose, and the evidence of reality. This vigilance is not about shutting yourself off from the world. It is about sharpening discernment so that you can interact with the world without being consumed by its poisons. You become a gatekeeper, allowing only what strengthens, clarifies, or aligns with your mission. You learn to identify the signs of manipulation. Exaggerated urgency meant to provoke fear, half-truths designed to mislead, or appeals to emotion that bypass logic entirely. You train yourself to pause before accepting any claim, asking, "Who benefits if I believe this?" That single question alone can expose 1,000 hidden agendas. Guarding your mind also means mastering the environment in which your thoughts live. If you spend your hours drowning in noise, arguments on screens, trivial updates, or conversations that pull you into cycles of outrage, you weaken your ability to think clearly. The chosen one must be deliberate about input. This might mean limiting exposure to toxic media, ending conversations that spiral into confusion, and seeking silence when the world demands reaction. In that silence, you can process, reflect, and decide for yourself what deserves your belief. The most dangerous attacks on the mind are often subtle. They come not from blatant lies, but from ideas that are almost true or from distractions that seem harmless. A thought that convinces you to slightly lower your standards, to compromise just this once, to tolerate what you once rejected. These are the seeds that erode the fortress from within. Relentless guarding means catching these moments early. You become skilled at tracing every thought back to its source, asking if it was planted there by someone who has your good in mind, or by someone who profits from your confusion. You will also find that guarding your mind requires guarding your emotions. Fear, anger, and even excessive excitement can cloud judgment, making you more vulnerable to manipulation. Those who seek to control others know this. They will push you into emotional extremes because it is in those states that reason collapses. By staying centered, calm in crisis, patient under pressure, you keep the gates of your mind under your control. Emotional discipline is mental armor. The people you surround yourself with are either allies in this guarding or hidden breaches in your defenses. Some will inspire clarity, challenge your thinking, and sharpen your perspective. Others will inject doubt, confusion, or negativity. The chosen one must be willing to distance from voices that consistently weaken mental strength. Even if those voices come from people you care about, you can love someone without giving them unrestricted access to your inner world. Guarding your mind relentlessly is not about paranoia, it is about sovereignty. It is claiming ownership over the one realm where you have absolute authority, your own thoughts. In a world that seeks to occupy your attention, steer your beliefs, and dictate your reactions, this sovereignty is revolutionary. It allows you to navigate chaos without being absorbed by it. You begin to see the currents of influence around you and choose which ones to ride, which to avoid, and which to resist entirely. Once this practice becomes habit, your decisions become sharper, your words more deliberate, and your actions more aligned with your mission. You stop being reactive and start being strategic. You become immune to many of the tactics that ensnare others, not because you are unaffected by them, but because you notice them before they take hold. This is the kind of mental resilience that will keep you alive when the days ahead grow darker and the poison of deception is everywhere. Your mind, guarded with unwavering vigilance, becomes the stronghold from which all other victories are launched. Discernment over popularity is the discipline of choosing truth and alignment over the comfort of being accepted. In the days ahead, the crowd will often move in a direction that feels safe because it is familiar, or because it promises quick relief from fear. But the chosen one cannot afford to follow the current simply because it is full of voices. What most people call consensus is often just the loudest opinion repeated until it feels true. If you make your decisions based on what gains approval, you surrender control over your path to the shifting moods of the masses. Discernment begins with a deep commitment to observation and evaluation. You do not take things at face value, even if they are embraced by everyone around you. You study the motives, the patterns, and the consequences that follow certain beliefs and actions. You ask whether something is right, not whether it is popular. This is not an easy path. People will notice when you withhold your agreement, and some will take it as an insult or a threat. The temptation will be to nod along, to avoid conflict, to be seen as agreeable. But survival for the chosen one depends on resisting that urge, because popularity offers comfort, while discernment offers protection. Popularity is a fickle ally. The moment you refuse to go along with the crowd's latest demand, the approval you worked so hard to keep will vanish. What was once praise becomes suspicion, and what was once welcome turns into exclusion. If your identity and confidence are built on that approval, you will be easily manipulated into abandoning your values just to get it back. Discernment removes that weakness. When you know how to evaluate truth apart from social pressure, you can stand alone if necessary because your compass is internal, not handed to you by others. The danger of chasing popularity is that it blinds you to long-term consequences. The crowd's decisions are often reactive. They respond to the latest event, the latest voice, the latest fear. Discernment looks past the noise to see where a path actually leads. You measure actions not just by how they feel now, but by what they produce later. This requires patience and the willingness to be misunderstood. People who operate in discernment often seem slow to choose a side, because they are not choosing sides, they are choosing truth. That patience is a strength, even if it makes you stand out. To maintain discernment, you must train yourself to recognize the difference between influence and wisdom. Influence often comes with charisma, presentation, and emotional appeal. Wisdom may be quieter, less glamorous, and harder to digest, but it stands up to scrutiny. When everyone else is persuaded by how something sounds or how it makes them feel, the chosen one digs deeper, testing whether it holds up under logic, principle, and reality. In this way, discernment acts as armor. It keeps you from being swept up in movements that start with passion but end in ruin. The challenge is that popularity often masquerades as unity. It tells you that to be in harmony with others, you must agree with them, even if that means silencing your doubts. But true unity cannot be built on a lie. If you suppress what you know to be right in order to keep the peace, you create a fragile peace that will eventually shatter. Discernment allows you to engage with others honestly, to contribute to unity that is based on shared truth rather than mutual pretense. There is also a personal cost to choosing discernment over popularity. It can mean isolation, being misjudged, or losing relationships that were tied to your willingness to conform. But there is a greater cost to ignoring discernment. You lose yourself. You become a reflection of the crowd, with no anchor of your own. The chosen one must be willing to pay the price of being different, because in times of mass deception, difference is a form of survival. Practicing discernment means asking hard questions when others are silent, and holding your ground when the majority is moving in the opposite direction. It means listening to perspectives without being enslaved to them. It means being open to correction without being pressured into conformity. It demands courage, because there will be moments when every voice around you says one thing, and you must calmly, firmly say another. In the days ahead, Deception will often arrive wrapped in the comfort of collective agreement. Popularity will be used as evidence of truth, as if numbers themselves could prove what is real. But the chosen one knows that truth is not determined by majority vote. Discernment allows you to see past the glitter of mass approval and recognize when the foundation beneath it is rotten. And when others finally realize the danger and look for someone who saw it early, they will find you still standing, not because you were against them, but because you were for the truth that could have saved them from the start. Ruthless prioritization is the discipline of deciding, without hesitation or apology, what truly matters and giving it your full focus, while cutting away everything else. In normal times, it is easy to scatter your attention among countless tasks, obligations, and distractions because the cost of doing so seems small. But in the days ahead, when pressure is high and resources, time, energy, attention, are limited, every choice carries weight. The chosen one must understand that not everything can be done, not every opportunity is worth pursuing, and not every voice deserves your time. Without ruthless prioritization, the urgent will always crowd out the important until nothing vital gets accomplished. This way of living begins with clarity. You must know your mission so completely that you can measure every demand against it in an instant. If an action moves you closer to that mission, it stays. If it does not, it is poison disguised as productivity. This sounds simple, but in practice, it requires courage, because many of the things you cut away will not be obvious wastes of time. Some will be good opportunities, flattering invitations, or tasks that make you feel useful. But the enemy of the best is often the good. By saying yes to what is merely good, you make it impossible to give your best energy to what is essential. Ruthless prioritization also demands that you face the truth about capacity. You cannot do everything. Every yes you give is a no to something else. People who refuse to choose often tell themselves they're keeping their options open, but what they are really doing is letting life choose for them. The chosen one takes ownership of that choice. You decide in advance where your time will go, rather than letting the loudest or most immediate demand decide for you. The danger of failing in this discipline is subtle at first. Without clear priorities, your days fill with busyness, and you feel a false sense of accomplishment because you are always doing something. But business without alignment drains energy without producing meaningful results. Over time, it wears you down, leaving you too exhausted to tackle the things that actually matter. In difficult times, that exhaustion can be fatal, not just physically, but to your resolve and focus. Ruthless prioritization means becoming comfortable with the word no. You will have to say it to people you respect, to projects you enjoy, and to distractions that feel harmless. No is not rejection, it is protection. It protects the mission, the limited energy you have, and the quality of the work you are called to do. Each no you say to something unaligned is a yes to what truly counts. The chosen one learns to deliver that no firmly, without guilt, because you know it is in service of something greater. This practice also requires constant reevaluation. What was important last month may no longer be important today. Circumstances shift, threats change, and resources deplete. Prioritization is not a one-time list. It is a living process that demands awareness. At the start of each day, you ask yourself, what 3 things, if done today, will move me forward the most? Everything else is secondary. By focusing your best hours on those few critical tasks, you ensure that progress happens no matter how chaotic the day becomes. Another benefit of ruthless prioritization is that it prevents the slow drift into distraction. In challenging times, fear and fatigue can push you toward easy, shallow tasks that feel like progress but accomplish nothing. When your priorities are fixed, you recognize these impulses for what they are, escapes, not solutions. You can redirect yourself back to what matters without losing momentum. This discipline will also make you stand out. Most people will be chasing dozens of small goals at once, their attention pulled in every direction. They will admire your focus but may also resent it, especially when you refuse to get pulled into their chaos. You must be prepared for misunderstanding. Some will think you are cold, selfish, or inflexible. In reality, you are simply unwilling to waste the only resources you cannot replace: your time and attention. Ruthless prioritization is not about doing less for the sake of ease. It is about doing less so that what you do matters more. It forces you to choose depth over breadth, impact over activity, And when the days ahead demand every ounce of strength and clarity you possess, it is this discipline that will ensure your efforts are spent where they will actually make a difference, instead of being scattered until they are powerless. Resilience against isolation is the ability to remain steady, purposeful, and mentally strong when the path ahead requires you to walk alone. For the chosen one, isolation is not always a punishment. Often, it is a byproduct of refusing to compromise your mission or values. In a world where conformity is rewarded, taking an uncommon stand will naturally separate you from those who once seemed close. This separation can be sudden or gradual, but it will test the mind in ways that few other trials can. Those unprepared for it may bend their convictions just to feel the comfort of belonging again. Those who survive it understand that solitude, when embraced rather than feared, can become a source of strength. The first challenge in facing isolation is the shock of it. Humans are wired for connection, and the absence of regular support, affirmation, or companionship can feel like a wound. You will notice the silence where encouragement used to be, the absence of people who once stood beside you but now stand far away. The temptation will be to interpret this as evidence that you are wrong, that you have chosen poorly. But absence of company is not proof of error. It is often proof of alignment, because walking a narrow road naturally reduces the number of fellow travelers. Resilience in this state begins with redefining what it means to be alone. Solitude is not the same as abandonment. It is a space where you can hear your own thoughts clearly, where you can strengthen your convictions without the noise of competing opinions. In times of isolation, you can refine your skills, sharpen your perspective, and deepen your resolve. While others are distracted by the constant pull of group thinking, you have the opportunity to develop the independence that will be critical in moments when quick, decisive action is required. There is a danger in isolation if it is not handled well. The absence of outside voices can lead to echo chambers of your own making, where untested ideas grow unchecked. Resilience here means maintaining discipline in your input. Even when alone, you seek out trustworthy sources of wisdom, challenge your own assumptions, and remain open to truth, even if it comes from unexpected places. Being cut off from the crowd does not mean being cut off from growth. Another danger is the emotional weight of loneliness. In extended isolation, the mind can begin to crave approval so intensely that it entertains the idea of compromise just to feel connected again. This is when you must remember why you are on this path. If you chose it because it was easy, you will abandon it when it becomes hard. But if you chose it because it is right, you will endure the discomfort knowing it will pass, and the integrity you keep will outlast the temporary ache. Building resilience against isolation also involves intentionally creating sources of strength that do not depend on constant social reinforcement. These might be practices of discipline, such as setting daily goals and keeping them without anyone watching. They might be personal rituals of reflection, such as journaling or meditation, that keep you grounded. They might be physical challenges that remind you of your capacity to endure. The key is to become self-sustaining, to know that even without applause, recognition, or company, you can still move forward. Isolation can also sharpen your discernment of relationships. When the crowd disperses and only a few remain, you begin to see who values you for more than shared convenience. Those who respect your convictions, even if they disagree with them, are rare and valuable allies. Their presence is worth more than the noise of 100 fair weather companions. Recognizing and nurturing these bonds ensures that your isolation is never total, even when it feels like you are walking alone. The paradox is that mastering resilience against isolation often makes you a better companion to others in the long run. When you no longer cling to people out of fear of being alone, you interact with them out of strength, not desperation. You can stand beside them without leaning on them for identity or validation. This allows you to give without draining yourself, to lead without needing constant reassurance, and to walk away when a path no longer aligns with your purpose. The chosen one must expect seasons of solitude and prepare for them before they arrive. You strengthen your mind so that the absence of familiar voices does not erode your confidence. You strengthen your spirit so that you can keep going even when encouragement is scarce. You strengthen your habits so that your progress continues regardless of who is watching. When you see isolation not as a void, but as a forge, you emerge from it sharper, more unshakable, and more capable of carrying your mission through the trials ahead. Unshakable core values are the immovable foundation upon which every choice, action, and response rests, no matter how intense the pressure becomes. For the chosen one, they are not optional ideals or convenient slogans. They are the non-negotiable principles that define who you are, even when circumstances try to rewrite you. In the days ahead, when confusion spreads and moral lines blur, these values are the compass that prevents you from drifting into compromise. Without them, you are easily steered by fear, desire, or the influence of others. With them, you remain anchored, even in storms that would pull most people apart. Core values are not the same as temporary goals or emotional preferences. They are not chosen because they are fashionable or because they make life easier. They are forged in moments of clarity, often during hardship, when you see with absolute certainty what you will and will not stand for. Once established, they do not shift to fit the situation must fit them. This is what makes them unshakable, your willingness to suffer loss before you betray them. To live by such values requires first identifying them without self-deception. Many people claim values they do not truly live by, because it sounds good to say them aloud. But your real values are revealed by your consistent actions under pressure, not by what you announce in safety. The chosen one examines their life honestly, asking, what principles have I refused to abandon, even when it cost me? What lines would I never cross, even if no one was watching? The answers to these questions form the bedrock upon which all else must stand. Once you know your core values, you must guard them as fiercely as you guard your own life. Every day, situations will arise that seem to demand only a small compromise. They will be presented as harmless exceptions, just this once, just for now. But each small concession chips away at the foundation, until one day the entire structure collapses. Unshakable values survive because they are defended at the smallest points of attack, long before the big battles arrive. Living by these values will sometimes make life harder. You will turn down opportunities that could have advanced you, because they require dishonesty or betrayal. You will lose relationships when others realize you will not bend your principles to keep their approval. You will be misunderstood, labeled stubborn, or accused of arrogance. The temptation will be to justify small changes to your values for the sake of peace or progress. But the chosen one understands that any gain achieved through the erosion of principle is poisoned at its core, and will eventually destroy what it seemed to build. There is also a stabilizing power in unshakable values. When the world around you is unpredictable, you do not have to reinvent your response every time a challenge comes. You measure the situation against your principles and act accordingly, without wasting energy on endless hesitation. This consistency not only strengthens your own resolve, it makes you trustworthy in the eyes of those who watch. People may not agree with you, but they will know where you stand, and that reliability can become a source of influence in unstable times. These values also protect you from the seduction of short-term wins. In moments of fear or scarcity, quick gains can be tempting, especially if they promise relief from present discomfort. But core values keep you looking beyond the immediate moment, reminding you that survival at the cost of integrity is not true survival. It is slow self-destruction. When you hold to your values, you may lose in the short term, but you preserve the long-term strength that allows you to continue the mission without shame or self-betrayal. Maintaining unshakable values requires reinforcement. They must be revisited, spoken, and lived daily. You test them against new challenges, refine your understanding of them, and remain alert to any creeping rationalizations that might try to weaken them. This is why the chosen one surrounds themselves with people and environments that respect and strengthen those principles, rather than mock or erode them. Constant exposure to values in action makes them harder to forget or distort. When the days ahead grow darker, these values will be the one part of you that cannot be taken, bought, or broken. They will be your anchor when circumstances try to pull you into panic, your shield when manipulation tries to corner you, and your light when the path forward is hidden. They are not simply beliefs. They are the proof of who you are, and the guarantee that no matter how chaotic the world becomes, you will still recognize yourself at the end of it.